Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. It was just another ordinary Tuesday evening when I decided to take out the trash. The day had been long and tedious, filled with meetings that dragged on and emails that piled up like the refuse in the bin outside our small apartment. As I lifted the lid, a stray piece of paper caught my eye. I pulled it out, thinking it was just another bill or junk mail, but my heart dropped when I saw the name, Johnson. Confused, I turned the check over in my hands. It was a money transfer, made out to my wife, Emily. The amount was significant, and my mind raced with questions. Who was this Johnson? I had never heard of him, yet here he was, sending money to my wife like it was nothing. I felt my stomach churn as a sense of dread washed over me. Emily! I shouted, my voice echoing through the hallway. I needed answers, and I needed them now. She appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. What's wrong? Her voice was calm, almost too calm. I held the check up like evidence. Who is Johnson? Her face fell, the color draining from her cheeks. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't buy it. This check is made out to you, Em. And it's not just this one. I found a whole bunch of them. Let me see, she said, her voice shaky. But I wasn't about to hand over my findings. Instead, I stormed back to the trash, determined to dig deeper. The more I rifled through the crumpled bills and discarded takeout containers, the more checks I uncovered, each one with the same name. My heart raced as realization struck, this was no coincidence. Emily, you need to tell me the truth. What's going on? I turned back to her, my voice rising. She crossed her arms defensively, avoiding my gaze. It's nothing, I swear. Just some old transactions, maybe a friend. A friend? I laughed, a bitter sound escaping my lips. This looks like more than a friendly gesture. Is this guy paying you for something? What the hell is going on? Calm down, she snapped, her composure slipping. It's not what you think. In that moment, I saw the cracks in her facade. The woman I had loved for years suddenly felt like a stranger. Then explain it to me, Emily. Because right now, it looks like you're cheating on me. Her silence was deafening. The air grew heavy between us, charged with unspoken accusations and hidden truths. I felt anger boiling inside me, but it was laced with an undercurrent of despair. I had trusted her, and now that trust lay in ruins at my feet. I can't believe this, I said, my voice breaking. You're really going to pretend this is nothing? Look, I didn't want to worry you, she pleaded, her eyes welling up. It was just a mistake. I couldn't hold back any longer. A mistake. You've been getting money from this guy behind my back. How is that not worrying? I swear, it's not what it looks like, she shouted, the facade cracking under pressure. You have to believe me. But belief was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. The evidence was all around me, and it painted a clear picture of betrayal. I stepped back, shaking my head in disbelief. I can't do this, Emily. I need time to think. Wait. Where are you going? She reached for me, desperation flooding her voice. I'm done. I need to figure out what's next. I walked toward the door, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit me like a slap. I leaned against the wall, my mind racing. Revenge started to form in the back of my mind, a plan that could free me from this nightmare. I had to take control of the situation, no more running from the truth. I kicked my trash bag down the alley, feeling a sense of empowerment as I turned back toward the apartment. She thought she could pull the wool over my eyes, but I was no longer the oblivious husband. It was time to show Emily just how much pain her betrayal had caused. Emily. I shouted, my voice echoing in the night. You're going to regret this. After leaving the apartment, I walked aimlessly through the streets of our neighborhood, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. I had to get my bearings. I needed a plan, a way to confront Emily and this Johnson without losing my cool. My hands clenched into fists as I replayed the confrontation in my mind, her face, the fear, the lies. I reached the park, a place I often went to clear my head. The air was crisp, the moon hanging low in the sky, casting silver shadows across the grass. I sat on a bench, pulling out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Marcus, my best friend, my confidant. He needed to know what was happening. Hey, man, he answered after a couple of rings. What's up? Can we meet? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I really need to talk. Sure, I'll be at the diner in 10, he replied, the concern evident in his tone. 10 minutes felt like an eternity. I stared into the distance, watching people stroll by, couples laughing and holding hands. It felt surreal, knowing that just hours ago, I had been blissfully unaware of my wife's betrayal. When Marcus arrived, he wasted no time. He slid into the booth opposite me, his brow furrowed. What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. It's Emily, she's cheating on me. What? His eyes widened in disbelief. Are you serious? I nodded, sliding the check across the table. I found this in the trash. And it's not just one, there are more. She's been getting money from some guy named Johnson. I confronted her, and she's playing dumb. Marcus leaned back, processing the information. Damn. Have you talked to her since? Yeah, I left the apartment after that. I don't even know what to think. But I can't just sit back and let this happen. Are you going to confront her again? He asked. I don't know. But I need a plan. I want to expose this guy, make her see what she's lost. Anger bubbled beneath the surface, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I want her to regret this. You could find out who this Johnson is. Maybe track him down. Marcus suggested, his eyes glinting with excitement. I leaned in, my heart racing at the thought. That's actually a good idea. I could confront him directly, see what he has to say for himself. But I need to be careful. I can't let her know I'm onto her yet. Marcus nodded, a smirk forming on his lips. Let's dig a little. We can figure out a way to track him down. We spent the next hour brainstorming, flipping through social media, and searching for anything that could lead us to Johnson. After a few dead ends, we finally struck gold. A mutual friend of Emily's had commented on a post, a picture of Emily with a group of friends, including a familiar face. The man next to her was Johnson. Looks like he's got a business, I muttered, my finger hovering over the screen. We might be able to find out more. Let's check it out, Marcus urged, his enthusiasm infectious. We could pay him a visit, see if he's willing to talk. I felt a mix of dread and determination. Yeah, I want to confront him. He's the one who needs to hear from me. We spent the next few hours planning our approach. Marcus insisted we go undercover, posing as potential clients interested in Johnson's services. I knew it was risky, but the thought of standing face to face with the man who had infiltrated my life spurred me on. By the time we finished, it was late, and the diner was nearly empty. You good to go? Marcus asked, his eyes alight with mischief. Yeah, I replied, a steely resolve taking over. Let's do this. As we left, a sense of anticipation gripped me. I knew I was treading dangerous ground, but I had to see this through. My heart raced with every step, and I felt the weight of betrayal fueling my anger. The next morning, we suited up, pretending to be business partners interested in expanding our operations. I could hardly contain my anxiety as we made our way to A. Johnson's office. The building was sleek and modern, a stark contrast to the turmoil churning inside me. "Ready?" Marcus whispered, glancing at me before pushing open the glass door. I nodded, straightening my jacket. "Let's go." Inside, the lobby was bright and sterile, the air filled with the hum of conversation and the scent of fresh coffee. We approached the receptionist, who greeted us with a polite smile. "Can I help you?" "We have an appointment with A. Johnson," I said, forcing my voice to remain calm. "Please have a seat, he'll be with you shortly." She gestured toward a row of chairs. As we waited, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. When A. Johnson walked through that door, I would finally have the chance to confront him about the mess he had created in my life. Minutes passed like hours, and I exchanged glances with Marcus, who appeared equally tense. Finally, the door swung open, and a tall, well-dressed man stepped out, his smile wide and welcoming. "Gentlemen, you must be my next clients," he said, extending a hand. I froze for a moment, locking eyes with him. This was the man who had been siphoning money to my wife, the one I had been waiting to confront. I reached out to shake his hand, my grip firm. "Yeah, we've heard a lot about you, A. Johnson." I managed a tight smile, masking the turmoil inside. As he led us into his office, I knew that I was stepping into a web of deceit, and I was determined to unravel it. As A. Johnson settled into his sleek, leather chair, I glanced around the office. It was immaculate, high-end decor, a view of the city skyline, and bookshelves filled with business tomes. A trophy case caught my eye, filled with accolades that hinted at his success. But the glimmer of prosperity only intensified the bitterness in my gut. This man was the reason my life was unraveling. "Tell me what you're looking for," Johnson said, leaning back with an air of confidence. "I'd love to see how I can help you." I forced myself to breathe, reminding myself of my purpose here. "We're interested in expanding our business," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But first, we need to understand what you offer." Marcus chimed in, seamlessly taking the lead. "Right. We've heard great things about your operations and want to know how we can partner with you." As A. Johnson spoke, I couldn't help but feel a surge of anger with every compliment he extolled. He was charming, smooth-talking, and completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I struggled to maintain my composure as he detailed his achievements and the services he provided. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I interrupted him. "I think it's time for some honesty." A. Johnson raised an eyebrow, curiosity replacing the confident grin on his face. "Oh? What do you mean?" I leaned forward, meeting his gaze head-on. "I know about the checks. The money you've been sending to my wife, Emily." His expression shifted, a flicker of surprise flashing across his features before he masked it with feigned innocence. "I'm not sure what you're talking about." "Cut the crap," I snapped, feeling the adrenaline rush through me. "I found several checks made out to her. You're involved with my wife, aren't you?" A. Johnson's facade crumbled as he leaned back in his chair, a smirk slowly forming. "So, you caught her." I figured it was only a matter of time. The air in the room shifted, heavy with tension. My heart raced as fury ignited within me. "How could you do this? How could you both do this?" "Look, man," Johnson said, waving a hand dismissively. "Emily is a grown woman. She makes her own choices." "Choices? You call this a choice?" I shot back, unable to contain my anger. "You're just taking advantage of her." "Don't get all high and mighty on me," he retorted, leaning forward, his eyes glinting with arrogance. "Your marriage was a facade. I gave her something you couldn't." I felt my blood boil at his words. What you gave her was a betrayal, and I'm not going to let this slide. Let's be real, buddy. She came to me, he said, a smug grin on his face. And now you're here, trying to play the jealous husband. It's pathetic. The desire to lunge across the desk was almost overwhelming, but I forced myself to remain calm. This isn't over, Johnson. You may think you're untouchable, but I'll make sure everyone knows what you're doing. His laughter echoed in the room, mocking me. Good luck with that. You're just a guy who's about to get a divorce. What do you think people will believe? More than they'll believe your lies, I shot back, determination flooding my veins. Marcus cleared his throat, trying to diffuse the rising tension. Let's keep this professional, Johnson. This isn't just about you anymore. Johnson leaned back, his smirk fading. You think you can intimidate me? You're in over your head. We're just getting started, I said, my voice steady. I'll expose you for what you are, a fraud. And Emily? She'll see the truth. Good luck with that, he sneered, crossing his arms. But don't say I didn't warn you. You'll only hurt yourself trying to drag others down with you. I felt the weight of his words, but I refused to let them affect me. This man had no idea who he was dealing with. As I stood up, I looked him dead in the eyes. I'll make sure this doesn't end here. You'll regret crossing me. We walked out of his office, Marcus shaking his head in disbelief. That guy is something else. You handled that better than I would have. I had to keep my cool, I replied, my mind racing. But now, I need to take action. I can't let Emily get away with this. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Marcus asked, his excitement palpable. Yeah, I said, my resolve hardening. I want to expose him, to show Emily what she's really been doing. She needs to see the truth, no matter how painful it is. What's the plan? Marcus leaned closer, his eyes alight with determination. I'll gather evidence, get proof of their affair, I said, pacing as ideas began to form. Then, I'll confront her again. I want her to know that I'm not just some fool who will sit back and let this happen. Sounds like a solid plan, Marcus agreed, his enthusiasm infectious. Let's get to work. As we made our way back to the car, I could feel the weight of betrayal lifting slightly. The anger that had consumed me was now channeled into a purpose, a fire igniting within me, pushing me to take control of the situation. I wasn't just going to sit back and let Johnson destroy my marriage. I would fight back. The next few days were a blur of activity. I began gathering every piece of evidence I could find, combing through social media, gathering messages, and talking to friends of Emily's. I knew I had to act fast before she had a chance to cover her tracks. On the third day of my investigation, I received a tip from one of Emily's friends. I saw her with him last week at that cafe downtown, she said, her voice hushed. They looked pretty cozy. A chill ran down my spine. This was the moment I had been waiting for. Do you have any photos? I asked, my heart racing. Just a couple from my phone, she replied, pulling out her device. But I don't want to get involved. I get it, I said, my voice low. I just need to know. She hesitated, then handed me her phone. I looked at the images, my heart pounding in my chest. There they were, Emily and Johnson, laughing, their body language intimate. This is it, I whispered, feeling a rush of anger and betrayal. I can't believe she would do this. As I left the cafe, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was close to exposing the truth, but with that truth came the painful reality of what my marriage had become. Soon, I would confront Emily again, and this time, I would have the proof I needed to show her just how far she had fallen. The storm was brewing, and I was ready to unleash it. The day had finally come. Armed with undeniable evidence of Emily's betrayal, I felt a mixture of anticipation and dread as I approached our apartment. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on the pavement, mirroring the darkness gathering in my heart. I had replayed the confrontation in my mind countless times, each scenario more explosive than the last. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of her perfume hitting me like a punch. Emily was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. "Emily," I called, my voice cold and steady. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "Hey. You're home early." "Yeah, we need to talk," I said, my tone leaving no room for misinterpretation. She frowned, a hint of apprehension creeping into her eyes. "What about?" I dropped the photos onto the coffee table, the images of her and Johnson together, laughing, touching, living a lie. "This." Her expression shifted from confusion to horror as she recognized the damning evidence before her. I can explain," she stammered, rising to her feet. "Explain what?" "How you were unfaithful to me. How you were lying while I was out trying to save our marriage." I stepped closer, anger coursing through me. "You made your choices, Emily. Don't pretend this is anything but what it is, a betrayal. Please, just hear me out," she pleaded, desperation lacing her voice. "Why should I?" I shot back, my fists clenching. "You've made it clear where your loyalties lie. With him." "Don't do this," she yelled, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to happen." I took a step back, shaking my head in disbelief. "You never meant for it to happen. You let it happen, Emily. You chose him over me." Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. "I didn't want to hurt you." I was confused. Confused? I laughed bitterly, the sound echoing in the silence. "That's your excuse. It's pathetic." The anger boiling inside me was a living, breathing entity, demanding to be unleashed. "I deserve better than this. We both do. You think you can just waltz back into my life after betraying me like this?" "I'll do anything to make it right," she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't want your empty promises." I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my composure. "You've ruined everything." With a sudden resolve, I made a decision. "I'm not just going to walk away from this. I'm going to make sure you understand the consequences of your actions. You've hurt me, and now I'll make sure you feel it." Her expression morphed from desperation to fear. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I won't let you get away with this," I said, my voice low and menacing. "I'm going to take back control." I stormed out of the apartment, leaving her standing there, shocked and alone. My mind raced as I plotted my next move. It was time to confront Johnson again, but this time I wouldn't just expose him, I would make him pay. I headed straight to his office, my heart pounding in my chest. The building loomed ahead, and I could feel the adrenaline surging through my veins. I entered the lobby, striding toward the receptionist with purpose. "Is Johnson in?" I asked, my voice steady. "Yes, but he's busy with a client at the moment," she replied, her eyes flickering with curiosity. "Tell him I need to see him. Now." I didn't wait for her response, I marched toward his office, determination coursing through me. As I reached his door, I pushed it open without knocking. Johnson looked up, surprise evident on his face. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I'm here to settle a score," I said, my voice low and dangerous. He stood up, his demeanor shifting to one of confrontation. "You need to leave before I call security." "Security won't help you now," I said, stepping closer. "You've taken something from me, and I'm not leaving without getting it back." "What are you talking about?" His bravado faltered as he realized the weight of my words. "This is about Emily," I snarled, the venom in my voice palpable. You thought you could waltz into my life and take what's mine without consequences. Johnson's eyes narrowed, the cockiness fading. You're making a mistake, man. No, you're the one who made a mistake, I said, my heart racing as I advanced. You think this is just business. You think you can play with people's lives. Let's not do this, he said, holding up his hands, but I wasn't in a forgiving mood. In a sudden rush of anger, I lunged at him, shoving him backward into his desk. The impact sent papers flying everywhere, and I didn't hold back. I wanted him to feel every ounce of the pain he had inflicted on me. Get off me, he shouted, but I pressed forward, pinning him against the desk. You need to understand the damage you've done, I growled, leaning in closer. You think this is a game? This is my life you're messing with. His eyes widened, fear creeping into his expression as he struggled to break free. You're out of control. Maybe, I hissed, but you'll remember this moment. I promise you that. With one final shove, I let him go, stepping back to catch my breath. Johnson staggered upright, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. You're going to regret this, he spat. Not as much as you will, I replied coldly, turning on my heel and walking out of the office, my heart pounding with adrenaline. I could feel the weight of my actions settling in, but I didn't care. The rush of revenge surged through me, intoxicating and liberating. As I made my way back to the apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Emily would have to face the reality of her choices, and I would ensure she understood the depth of the betrayal she had inflicted. When I arrived home, Emily was waiting for me, her eyes wide with concern. Where have you been? What happened? Just taking care of business, I said, my voice flat. She stepped closer, searching my face for answers. What did you do? I confronted Johnson. He won't bother us again, I replied, a hint of satisfaction creeping into my voice. But at what cost? She pressed, desperation creeping in. Cost? I laughed bitterly. You have no idea what this has cost me. But you will. The realization dawned on her, and she took a step back, fear evident in her eyes. What do you mean? I'm done, Emily, I said, my voice low and final. You've shattered everything we had, and I won't let you make excuses anymore. This is over. Her face twisted in anguish. Please, don't do this. We can fix this. No, I said firmly, shaking my head. You made your choices, and now you'll face the consequences. We're done. As I turned to leave, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I was finally breaking free from the chains of betrayal, but the pain of it all lingered. I stepped out into the night, the cool air brushing against my skin, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Emily's cries faded behind me as I walked away from the wreckage of our marriage. I had fought back, taking control of my life, but the bitterness of betrayal would always linger. This was my new beginning, a path to reclaiming my life, free from the shadows of deceit. I had survived the storm, and now I was ready to face whatever came next, stronger than before.